Three presidential candidates did three very interesting interviews last night on Fox News. O'Reilly grilled Trump on being too thin-skinned. Christie tells Megyn Kelly why he can still win the nomination. But first to the senator from Texas. It was one of the biggest battles at Tuesday's debate. Ted Cruz and Marco Rubio squaring off on immigration. They've been going at it on the subject throughout the campaign season. Cruz targeting Rubio for supporting a pathway to citizenship for illegals, while saying he himself has never supported legal status. But this tape from 2013 tells a different story. Turns out he did support such an amendment.
If the objective is to pass common sense immigration reform that secures the borders, that improves legal immigration, and that allows those who are here illegally to come in out of the shadows, then we should look for areas of bipartisan agreement.
Bret Baier confronted Cruz on the discrepancy last night on Special Report.
It sounded like you wanted the bill to pass.
Of course I wanted the bill to pass, my amendment to pass. What my amendment did is take citizenship off the table, but it doesn't mean it doesn't mean that I supported the other aspects of the bill, which was a terrible bill. And Brett, you've been around Washington long enough. You know how to defeat bad legislation, which is what that amendment did.
The problem, though, is that at the time, you were telling people like Byron York with the Washington Examiner that this was not a poison pill. You told them my objective was not to kill immigration reform. You said you wanted it to pass at the time. So my question to you is, looking back at what you said then and what you're saying now, which one should people believe?
What the amendments I introduced, and I introduced 5 amendments, a whole series of amendments, what they did is they illustrated the hypocrisy of the Democrats. They showed that it was a partisan effort, and they succeeded in defeating the Rubio-Schumer amnesty bill.
All right, so Kimberly, I think what that showed is that it's a good thing to watch Fox News following these debates, because candidates come on and they are asked follow-up questions that a lot of the times you're not allowed to do in a debate. And I thought that what Bret Baier did was kind of get Cruz in a position that he's not used to being in. He was a little bit more defensive than he needed to be, and it's continued throughout today.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I'll tell you what was most shocking about that was that Cruz was thrown off guard for a moment there and didn't have a very good immediate response. We haven't seen this guy. He's a gifted debater, very good at when people are going on the attack on him, and he's a smooth operator. There he faltered a bit, which I think was significant. That's a problematic area for him, and it's going to continue to be, I think, going forward for the campaign. So he's really got to polish his response and come up with some, a good answer in response to it, because I think that's hurtful.
Well, it could. I mean, you are allowed to change your mind on issues, Eric. I think it seems like Cruz is trying to have it both ways, and I think what Rubio did in the debate was he knew that Cruz had been going after him on this, and so he actually introduced the question at the debate, which I think was probably more skillful at the time than even people realized.
Mm-hmm. Right, and here's the issue where Cruz and Rubio are and where they were 2, 3, 4 years ago on comprehensive immigration reform. Whether you agree with decriminalizing the act is one issue, and whether you agree with a path to citizenship. Mm-hmm. And they're both shooting at each other, and frankly, they're raising the question, where are you now? I think Kimberly's right. Ted Cruz, gifted debater, knows what he's talking about. But I think what they all really should do is, here's where I am now. I want to be your next president. I'm here now, and here's what I believe in. This is what I'll bring to the office, 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, starting next year, if you elect me, rather than, hey, I'm trying to explain why I put an amendment on a bill. I didn't really want the bill to pass, but I wanted the amendment to be hanging on that tree. It gets so complicated, and frankly, and I hate to say this, but this is why people like Donald Trump, because he doesn't play around with this BS. He just says, here's where I am now. I don't care what you think I said a year ago or 10 years ago.
What about someone like Chris Christie, though? Like Chris Christie did the same in the debate, Juan, where he said, if you hate Washington, this is why. You see somebody like Rubio and Cruz getting in the weeds. Like, here's what I would do.
Yeah, he's very clear, and he then relies on his experience. But I just want to jump in on this conversation about Ted Cruz, because what happened in the last week is Ted Cruz goes behind closed doors, right, and he says these things about Donald Trump. But he won't say it on the stage, and people, in fact, at the debate said, why won't you say what you said behind closed doors about Donald Trump? And then when it comes to the whole issue of national security, he says things that are, I think politically expedient. So, Eric, to your point, you can't be a guy who says, okay, this is what I'll do in the future. People want to know, do you have the character? Are you trustworthy? Do you stand by what you did in the past, or is there a reason that you have evolved rather than just saying, oh, no, that's not what I did, and lying to people?
Is there one on either side, Juan, that you can say, stands for exactly the same thing he or she stands for today that she did 4 or 5 or 6 years ago, because I'll be willing to bet.
Well, Marco Rubio is taking a hit from a lot of conservatives on his immigrant. No. Marco Rubio can't change. Marco Rubio was a leader in terms of that immigration reform package, and he's had to live with it and suffer the consequence. Here is Cruz trying to say, oh, no, I wasn't with you then. In fact, buddy, he was riding in the same posse.
Let me ask you, welcome.
Thank
to the
you.
5, Kat. Do you think Cruz is trying to be a little sly?
Exactly. It's so much bigger than just the little issue of this, the immigration bill itself. It's that he tries to bill himself as Trump light, like Washington lies to you and I tell it like it is, whether you like me or not. And a lot of people don't like me. I know. I can't really talk like him. I'm kind of glad about that. I'm glad that I don't sound like him at all. But so now what? Anybody who watches that, they can tell that he's playing politics with that answer, not even very well, but he's desperately trying to play politics. That goes against everything that he's trying to do and everything he wants people to think that he is.
All right. We're going to move on to the next topic because Donald Trump, he says he likes, well, this is how it reads. Trump likes to dish it, but taking it not so much. Bill O'Reilly confronted him about that last night on The Factor.
You don't think you're too thin-skinned? You might have to overlook some of this stuff if you become president, you know?
I don't think I'm thin-skinned, no. I like to have the truth told about me. And you know what? If I do something wrong, I know when it's wrong. And if somebody goes after me, including you, I don't mind it at all. But when I didn't do something wrong and they make it up and they make things up, that I don't like, Bill.
I think both things can be true, Kimberly.
Yeah, I mean, that's not bad. I mean, I think he does take some heat from O'Reilly for sure. I mean, O'Reilly can be critical of him and kind of call him to task on things, and, you know, he answers back. What I like about Trump is that he's not afraid to go on and face people and give back at them. He doesn't like hide. Like, what I don't like is some of these people that don't come on, like our network, they won't do an interview, like, hello, Hillary Clinton, where are you? Come on. If you're trying to get an office like this, come, defend, speak your mind, back up what you have to say, take the heat. So, and yeah, I think both can be true.
What do you think, Juan? Too thin-skinned?
Well, I think he is thin-skinned, and it's surprising to me. He goes after Fox a lot, you know. I mean, I don't know why, because I don't think we're unfair to him in the least, but he thinks that people aren't giving him a fair shot. Now, he says if he does something wrong, call him on it, but he'll know if he's done something wrong. Oh, so what, the journalists aren't supposed to ask him tough questions? I don't get it. By the way, he's doing great. You know, his favorability ratings are great. Most Republicans think he's likely to be the nominee, and yet he has this sense of being aggrieved, the victim of the media. Huh?
Well, I mean, who does that remind you of, though? I mean,
President
Obama.
Oh.
No, not at all.
Are you thin-skinned?
Of media?
No. I was going to say that President Obama is actually very thin-skinned.
All right, so here, thin-skinned is a strategy, and it's working for him. So he's made it very clear to every single other candidate running against him, if you punch me, I'm going to counterpunch. Guess what? He counterpunches a mean counterhook like Mike Tyson. They go down, so no one wants to counterpunch him anymore. So what's perceived as thin skin means don't go near me or I'm going to get you. And he does, whether it's a candidate or even the media. He does the same thing with the media, as we know here.
Yes, don't we?
But here's what ends up happening. Everyone else, they're fighting for second place now. They don't even want to go for first. They're not even trying to take the #1 spot right now. They're all trying to figure out who's going to be end up in #2.
You know what, Kat? I don't like thin-skinned. Because I just find it unattractive. It's not persuasive to me. But I think Eric has a good point. I mean, maybe it is working for him.
I think we're all thin-skinned, right? Everybody's thin-skinned. We're all human beings. Some people cry on the subway. Some people attack back, which Trump definitely does. I don't know why that would be an insult. I don't know what kind of answer we were expecting from Trump. He's clearly one of the people that fights back. He was going to be like, you know what, you're right, I am thin-skinned. I'll quit now. So I don't.
I have to admit, I have never cried on the subway.
Look, I want to.
One time you
I made her go with me.
I've definitely cried on the subway. Not this week, though. Not this week.
Good. All right, and finally, to Megyn Kelly's interview with Chris Christie, the New Jersey governor, may not be at the top of the polls, but he says do not count him out.
You know, I think I was discounted early on, and that's fine. You can't worry about the things you can't control. I just went out and laid out our program and our plan and doing it the way you do it in Iowa, New Hampshire. You know, day-to-day, hand-to-hand retail campaigning, and we're making an impression, and we've made an impression in the debates, too.
What is the path to victory for you? Because I realize that in New Hampshire now, you're tied for second place, but nationally, you're still down in the low single digits.
None of that matters because we don't have a national primary. We have primaries varies state by state, and when people actually start to vote, it changes those national numbers overnight.
That is true, what he just said. And Kimberly, what I want to go back to with him is that he's like fought for every inch of this ground.
I love it.
He was like sort of discounted, and then he's fought his way back to the main stage. And like a lot of people said in the aftermath of the debate that Cruz and Christie did the best in the debate.
Yeah, I think Christie has not disappointed in any of the debates that he's been in. I think he's been outstanding, and I like his tenaciousness. He's just fearless. He loves a good, hard fight. I understand his mentality, where he's coming from, having been a prosecutor as well. So I would not for a second count him out. Anything can happen. I mean, look, we just saw Cruz, make a misstep with, Brett Baier. Things happen. The dynamics change. Who would have thought, way back when, that Donald Trump would be the front runner and still going strong, strong, strong here at this point? This is why it's so great to be involved and watch this and have a front row seat to politics. And Christie's not giving up anytime soon. He actually has a very strong support system in terms of his organization, his media stuff that he puts out, and money.
That's true, and social media has been very important to his campaign. Done a good job on that. A lot of candidates have, but his in particular. Juan Williams, what do you think of Chris Christie?
Oh, I like Chris Christie. I think he's terrific. He'd be a good candidate for the Republicans. But I got to say, I disagree with you, Dana. I don't think what he said is accurate. When he says, "Oh, we don't have a national primary. We have state by state." Yeah, but you have to be in that state, and you have to be not only in that state, you have to have staff and money to play in that state. And outside of New Hampshire, there is no Chris Christie organization money at this time. So he's doing great. I think he's been in New Hampshire 50, 60 times. But then, according to the media
report... But that was his strategy. You know that from the beginning, was to go big and hard in New Hampshire. And
correct. But he's got to finish first or
Iowa.
second. But then once you do that, Kimberly, you got to have then the ability to go and take advantage of that momentum as you head south. And right now, he doesn't have it.
It's not easy, but he's saying, Eric, don't count him out.
Oh, you can't count anyone out, and I disagree with Juan that I think if you do have a good performance, he's not going to have a good performance in Iowa. It's going to be ugly for him in Iowa. If he does well in New Hampshire first or second, then all of a sudden I think you do get a lot of money thrown at you. You get a lot of interest. I think what Chris Christie has going for him right now, he's perceived as one of the establishment candidates. So it's Rubio and Christie right now are showing the most promise on the establishment side, the ones that aren't Donald Trump, Ted Cruz, or, say, a Ben Carson, who's faltering anyway. But the reason why he's doing well now is because national security bubbled to the forefront. It became big with Paris and San Bernardino. If we were on the economy still, he would be getting smoked. I'm sorry. I live in the state. I know all about the economic woes of New Jersey. But right now, we're not talking about any of that. We're talking about how are we going to stay safe. When you see Chris Christie, you say, hey, that guy could probably keep us safe.
And guess what? That's the biggest issue. So
yeah, absolutely.
This guy was like the front runner and someone that everyone was loving last time, but he didn't run, against Romney. You never know. He could be up there again soon.
Last word on Chris Christie?
Yeah, he missed his chance. I think he's kind of like a dude who peaked in high school that still has some of that confidence, but he's kind of knows he's kidding himself. When he told Megyn Kelly, he said, oh, I have the same path as everybody else. No, you don't, because people are asking you, what are you doing on the path? You're coming at this from a defensive place. So it is different. He sounded a little more like he was answering with inspirational affirmations to himself, and that's never a good sign.
I disagree, but we don't have enough time.